Evelyn to Philip, July 14th, 1944. Darling sweetheart, received yours of the 5th and 8th July today, honey, and they were especially welcome since there had been 3 mailless days in between. I didn't write last night as Faye's mother stopped over here and asked me to write to Faye for her. By the time I had Adele in bed and wrote her letter, it was almost 11 and I was all tuckered, no comment now, out. I'm glad you had such a nice time on your pass and that you're not thinking of going to London. A small portion of your letter, where you get to talking about the flying bombs and London, was cut away. I feel lots better now. I'll try to get several Pyrex bottles and send them along in my next package. I don't have any myself, but I think I can get some. I'll make up a whole package within the next few days. I bathed Diana this morning since she was being initiated. Yep, it was her first bath. She was very hungry since her feeding came shortly afterward and cried most of the time. Goldie's permanent came out very nice. It's a little short, but it is becoming. Don't worry, honey, I have no intentions of cutting mine. Harry was out to the track again today, for the 3rd time this week. That makes about 6 times in 2 weeks. I asked him if he was changing his address from 4906 to Garden State Park, and I don't think he cared for that remark. Thursday, the terrible heat spell broke with a rain spell. It rained all day and cooled off delightfully in the evening. So much so that our darling page 2 offspring slept till 5 minutes after 8. I can't get over it. My pay today amounted to $20.28 and will probably be the same each week now that I've stopped working on Saturdays. The truck driver at Mr. Bellett's place paid me a lovely compliment today. He came in to get some of the bills I had readied and let loose with this, quote, I don't like to throw bouquets, Evelyn, but you're the best they've had in this place to date, end quote. And he's been there with Mr. B for many years. I was flattered. In fact, I'm almost tempted to hit Mr. B for a raise. I don't think I will for a while yet, but I will someday. Furthermore, I certainly hope I won't work there more than a few months. I'd rather have you home any day. I don't know why the hell I'm so optimistic these days. If the war did keep up, I don't think I'd care to work past Christmas, at the very most. I like my job immensely, and the money it brings has freed my mind of any financial difficulty whatever, to say nothing of how good it has been to me mentally and physically. Yet I wouldn't like to think of staying there for, say, a year. I want very much to get back to how we used to live, and soon. This morning Adele had a great time. She threw pennies into the penny bank and didn't want to stop. As soon as she sees a pocketbook, she says money. Adele learned to say Gloria's name. She would have to learn it after Glow left, and says go Rhea, so that it sounds almost correct. I wish you could see her imitate Petey Burke. No one can get over the remarkable control Petey has over Adele, and several of the mothers in the drive have asked him whether he would try to do something with their kids. Sidney Taylor is in on an emergency furlough, and I chanced to meet him in the drive this evening. He doesn't look as well as he did, and he isn't too crazy about the U.S. Army, and he enlisted. He asked about you and Ed and Cy. Page 3. Ray is here for dinner this evening and asked me not to forget to send along regards. I read her a portion of one of your recent letters in which you asked me to have either Mickey or Ray drop you a line. Esther's George is in on furlough, and I called him the other morning. He asked about you too. I hope to see him this weekend if I can manage it. Our Jack wrote the cutest letter direct to Diana Jean. One sentence was particularly cute, as only Jack can be. I hope to get to see you before you get too big for your diapers. I got off 4 letters to other people Wednesday night by sitting up till 11. I wrote to Ruth, Cy, Glow, and Milt. I'd better sign off now, baby mine, as it is late and I want to get some sleep. We're having a new girl in to clean tomorrow, and I have many things to do besides helping her. I intend to go to either Esther's or Dot's in the afternoon. I'm able to keep Adele up late, so I can spend a good part of the evening wherever I go. I have a date with Petey for Sunday morning. He's promised to make Adele's pictures in her yellow pinafore, all for Whittle U. He has little time to spare on Sundays as he goes to visit his mother and is being very nice about it. I'm so sleepy right now, baby, that I can just about see to type this. I love you so much, darling, and I'm so anxious to see you once more. Your Ev. Philip to Evelyn, 14 July 1944. My darling, just got back from the Base Theater where I saw Thank Your Lucky Stars for the second time. I still have time to get off a letter, so here I am to give you the latest news and to answer your letters of the 2nd and 3rd July, which arrived this afternoon. You'll notice, sweet, that I am single spacing. That's because I would like to make this a real longie. Will you settle for this long sheet typed and single spaced? It's a pretty large order, but I'll do my best. Last night I attended a round-table discussion at the Aero Club. The speakers were 4 very learned gentlemen. 2 were officers in the British Army, a major and a lieutenant colonel. The major in private life was a barrister, lawyer, and the lieutenant colonel was a member of Parliament. The other 2 were professors at Cambridge. The idea was this. The GIs asked the questions about anything they wanted to know about, such as English institutions, education, taxes, current events, etc. The Brains Trust, as the 4 gentlemen were billed on the notices around the station, undertook to answer each question put to them. It was a very entertaining and educational evening. I enjoyed listening to the precise English of the Britishers and learned quite a bit about things in general. Did you know, for instance, that each British wage earner pays a direct tax of 50% of his earnings to the government? This means that if a fellow makes £10 a week, $40, he must turn £5 back in taxes. And the Americans groan under their tax burden. I went to bed at 11 o'clock, but unfortunately I didn't go to sleep. Somehow Sergeant Overman and I got to talking, and just like a couple of old hens, we forgot to stop. It must have been past 2 o'clock when we decided to quit and get some shut-eye. We talked about everything under the sun, but mostly the talk was about our wives, how they made us skimp and save before marriage, how we sweated out our babies, pacing the hospital corridors, what we planned to do once we got home, etc., etc., far, far into the night. It was kind of tough getting out of bed this morning, but by a supreme effort of will, I finally managed to roll out 15 minutes late. The morning was spent making out the officers' pay vouchers and passed very quickly. About 2:30 in the afternoon, I became very sleepy, and not having anything to do that couldn't wait until tomorrow, I asked Sergeant Murphy if I couldn't have the rest of the afternoon off. He said okay, so I headed for my bunk and proceeded to take a nap. I awoke feeling rested and ready for anything. When I learned that Thank Your Lucky Stars was playing at the theater, I thought it would be kind of nice to hear Dinah Shore sing How Sweet You Are and The Dreamer again. I love to hear her sing, and these are two of her best numbers. I think I've told you that the former is my favorite. I forgot to tell you, sweet, that when I awoke after my nap, I found your two letters lying against my cheek on the cushion, where Corporal Hagan, the mail orderly, had put them. They certainly were a welcome sight after 3 mailless days. After the show, I stopped in the hut, chatted a while with Sergeant Overman, and then picked up your letters, reread them, and came over to the orderly room to type out this letter, which promises to be longer than I thought. Now to your letters. After a few rather obscure paragraphs in which you attempt to say something in regard to my last, quote, sermon, unquote, I don't rightly know what, you tell me about Adele's pretty new yellow pinafore. It sounds from your descriptions like the last word in what our discriminating young lady of 19 months should wear. I bet it's even prettier than you say it is. It's good to know, sweet, that I am contributing something to my daughter's wardrobe. Thanks for making such good use of the money I sent you. But when are you going to get that dress for yourself? The limey told me about his being wounded in his letter, but since you made no mention of it in your last, I assumed that he hadn't told you at home. Evidently, he reckoned without the War Department, who has no such qualms. That is why I said nothing about it when I referred to his letter in my last. Happily, he wasn't hurt bad, and all is okay now. He expects to rejoin his outfit soon, and thinks he may get some sort of leave directly afterward. I sure would like to see the guy. You had to cut that letter short because Anne was visiting, a likely excuse. Anyhow, give Anne my love and tell her I'm sore at her for depriving me of a few extra paragraphs. Your letter of the 3rd was nice and long, even though you had to cut it short on account of company again. And I enjoyed your account of the latest doings of the pumpkin. Knowing your aversion to bragging about the kid, I can well believe that she is even more remarkable than you imply. She must be adorable about now, and I'm not surprised that the pride and love you feel for her, repressed as it is when you write about her, is all the more evident for your obvious reticence and reluctance to make a fuss about her. Your modesty is most becoming, Mrs. Strongen, but it doesn't fool me. If you are not literally bursting with pride in our lovely and talented daughter, then I don't know my Chippy. Truth to tell, sweet, I'm kind of proud of her myself. Not more so, though, than I am of her mommy, who has done such a wonderful job of raising her. This in spite of very real and severe handicaps, which no one else can possibly appreciate as well as I. I'll never stop adoring you for that, darling, and a lifetime of all the loving devotion of which I am capable will not be long enough to repay you for it. The love and tenderness that wells up in me whenever I think of you and what you have done for me are so heart-filling that I think sometimes I'll burst with the fullness of it. Oh, for the opportunity to release some of that long pent-up emotion where it has always been welcome. Baby mine, I need you more than you can possibly know. Good night for now, my darling. I adore you. My dearest love to our sweet pumpkin. My love to all. Forever, your Phil. P.S. Forgot to mention that baby furniture circular you sent along. I thought some of the illustrated sets were very nice. Someday, Chippy.